The expansion hint we missed.
Oh, yes, this is
Time.
Interesting.
TikTok, what's going on?
Yep.
So this is from SA Gamer's interview with Steve Denuser in September 2020, and he said, "It is said that the Primus sought out an ally who could show him the infinite time ways." Which he used to watch the same battle play out over and over again across realities. And he noted how the slightest differences in strategy and troop deployments could swing the conflict toward either side. And after eons of such meticulous study, the Primus can instantly assess any situation and devise the most likely path to victory, which is very funny considering he doesn't really seem to be that smart when we see him in the game. But sure, whatever, fair enough. But of course, what does this mean? I mean, obviously, I remember, the whole time works strange in the Shadowlands, and we were kind of like, hey, they're going to do a time skip. Couldn't this be interesting? And we all talked about it for a while, and then I had the interview with Ian, and Ian's like, nah, it's not that. It was just quite fun. But time. What could be going on with time?
I just got very distracted because people in chat have said, Doctor Strange, is that you? So that's unfortunate that's just what that means to people now. Yeah, perhaps it's just Doctor Strange, but
everything's MCU now. Everything.
Absolutely, yeah. No, so no, he doesn't cheat. It's that he did this once and studied. Basically, he hyperbolic time chambered, but for studying military strategy, as opposed to getting good at punching things. But yeah, this is interesting to me because it was we're going to go into Wohead's article on the real jailer being the Primus, and that was one thing that they pointed out, which is. That's very specific. People there's so much going on because this was pre-Shadowlands launch. Everyone's like going on. It's like there's so much to think about lore-wise. It's hard to like hyper-focus on everything. But that's the thing, like especially saying sought out an ally who could show him the infinite time ways. That's probably very specific language used for a purpose. Because either that's to mislead us and it's not a problem, or the infinite dragons are the people who showed him this.
Yeah.
Or could possibly be Void. Because Void has that possibility way of seeing the world. But infinite time ways, likely infinite dragons, which means that's a very big, what do you call it? It's a very big hint at what they could be thinking about, I think.
Yeah.
Because they dropped that stuff all over the place.
So, look at this ally be. Well, I mean, the first thing, this is lore told to us by Steve in an interview.
Yeah.
Which, all well and good. But I do generally prefer to have my story being told in the game, and this is not in the game.
Yeah.
So that actually does mean that they could 180 from this at any moment if they really wanted to.
Yeah.
But this has been said, and I suppose it is part of that character's canon now. It's just that a developer said this is what happened. That's like a pretty high level of canon. But the highest level of canon is it's in-game in the new expansion, and I suppose it's not massively there. So the possibilities, obviously, infinite dragons, and, infinite time ways is, in fact, what Steve said. They did have an infinite pirate dragon, Captain, Time Captain Hooktail, remember that, in Tazavesh.
Mm-hmm.
There's no timeline in which you can defeat me, other than the one that we're in.
Yep, which is, that is very much a theme they're developing. Obviously, you kind of go, it's just boss dialogue from Tazavesh, it means nothing. But in the same way the Dreadlord transforming means nothing because it's not super intentional. But at the same time, like, they are definitely very much... They like that theme. They like that. I've seen all futures. You can't win. Shit, you won. Well, fuck.
Yeah.
Oh dear, that doesn't bode well.
So they've did it. They've done that in Legion. They've done it again. They've done it again here. So yep. I mean, obviously we should think about that. So it could be Amantul. But you have to throw that away, whatever, sure. I mean, if Death and Order know they're all on the same side, then yeah, sure, Amantul could be helping out there. Mm-hmm. And then Void, because they can see all possibilities.
Yep.
And of course, Void does have a link to the Infinite Dragons as well. Mm-hmm. For a few other hints then. Well, of course, we do have the Void incursion into Bastion. And we do have the Light incursion and the Naru Prisoner in Revendreth.
Yeah, so that was mostly just to highlight the fact that they are kind of going, here's little bits and bobs of trying to develop the Shadowlands' involvement in terms of everything else we know. So obviously then, see, there's Void, there's Light, well, there's Time as well. And we know that they've been setting up Time for so long. It's not like they've been setting it up super hard, but they do reach into that pool every now and again for inspiration for content. And they will. It means at any time you're going to be like, it's the Time expansion. Probably not like Warlord's kind of big time travel one, but more end time feeling. I mean, obviously, especially if we're going into the Dragon Isles, if we're going there, then that looks very much like Infinite Dragons, of course.
Yeah.
Of course they're going to be there.
Yeah, and like with time, so, we started off with Black Morass and Escape from Turnhall Keep. We've got the Culling of Stratholme, the End Time. So there's all those in the more sort of legacy era of WoW.
Yeah.
Of course, Grand Magistrix Elisond, an echo of the Grand Magistrix, once spoke to the Nightfallen champions, stunned by their victory, which Elisond had not foreseen in her exhaustive scrying of the future. So there's that. Now we've got the Deaths of Chromie, where Morazond was called the Master, and in that, the assassins who were trying to kill Chromie were a Satyr, a Void God, a Lich, and a Nathrazim. What's this? Kill the dragon, kill the dragon, kill the dragon. It's not a gnome, it's a dragon. Even a good dragon slay the dragon. What? Oh, scribbled ravings, yes. Crossed the timeways one too many times, didn't you? Made a few enemies, maybe caused a paradox you couldn't reconcile. The demons, the elementals, the humans, the orcs, they're all on my side, not yours. Now you've gone and done it, whelp.
So, just one thing. Keep that word paradox in mind. We will encounter it later today.
Yes. Oh, that'll be fun. And then a Stitch in Time. The Infinite are still attacking. The Infinite Shade. The Shears of Death so easily destroy that which is so flimsy. We must cut away our weakness. That is from the Time Weavers. Time Weavers were in Battle for Azeroth. Yeah, BFA had Infinite Dragon plotting as well. It was just in the tailoring quest that I think came in 8.1. Maybe it was 8.2.
1.5.
Okay.
Yep.
I was halfway there. Yeah. So, time. Could there be more? Could there be more? What's going on? The Primus, he's a very strange guy. Why does he not have a model in the new cinematic? What's going on? Big thinks. Why does the Primus... Or, why does the Rune Carver, who is the Primus, look like the original jailer that looks in the leaked concept art and the first trailer that doesn't look like the jailer we got? Because the jailer we got is just Bane from Forgotten Realms.
Yep, absolutely.
What's going on? Makes you think, Matt.
It certainly does. It wasn't just us thinking either. It's made other people think.
Yes, so...
Is the jailer even the jailer?
Is the jailer the jailer? Now, do they go into the leaked art?
Yes, I believe so. I kind of just, because we covered that ourselves last week, what I've kind of done here is I've just picked out the kind of the most important parts of this, because this is a very long article and very long, very well constructed one.
Yeah.
That kind of breaks down, here's the theory and here's everything it matches. I picked out the stuff that I thought is either new or interesting, and the kind of almost like the cliff notes of what is the most important parts of the theory, just because otherwise we would be here all day long.
Well, here is the theory.
Yep.
Long ago, Zovaal the Primus and Sire Denathrius came into two pieces of important information. One was a great threat looming. The other is that the sigils of the Eternal Ones could be used to unlock a portal to the forbidden realm of Zareth Mortis that contains the power to reshape the universe itself. The three agreed to do something about it. They would gain access to Zareth Mortis and use the power to save the universe. The Primus, warmongering to his core, felt the only way forward is for the powers of death to get complete control over the universe, to defeat all other cosmos forces and reign supreme. Denathrius agrees with this, but Zovaal believes otherwise. In his own words, a cosmos divided will not survive what is to come. A fight breaks out, and rather than help the Primus, Zovaal becomes an obstacle in his way. And at this point, the Primus realizes two things. First, gaining access to Zareth Mortis is not going to be easy, especially because if the other Covenant leaders got wind of his plans and tried to stop him, that would be bad. And second, nothing beats a good diversion. So the Primus revealed the evidence they had that Zovaal had been trying to reach Zareth Mortis, accusing him of trying to access that forbidden knowledge to increase his own power. The Primus, a master manipulator, arranged things so it seemed that Zovaal was guilty of the crimes that would upset the other Eternal Ones the most. and this can be seen in the judgment. Carestia, the Archon, is shocked that Zoval, the Arbiter, would forsake his sacred duty. The Winter Queen is terrified that Zoval threatened the Great Cycle. Denathrius, of course, knows all of the truth, and only reminds Zoval that he could have chosen to work with him and the Primus rather than go against their plans. I really like that story. I really like this theory, and I think what's strong is that there's plenty of evidence. And there's one thing that I will add to this, and it's the sort of thing, I don't know if WoWhead have heard the similar things to what I've had. I would kind of assume so, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure.
Which has probably helped them feel emboldened to just go ahead with this article, which is a great article.
Yep.
But what I had heard is actually different to this.
Yeah.
But I had basically heard of, Shadowlands being quite majorly changed in terms of the antagonist. And certainly that does line up with, the quantity of patches that we got. All of those things, right? It all makes sense. The Shadowlands as we got it is not how it was first concepted. Because, frankly, who in their right mind would concept such a disappointing letdown of a story? Just straight up. It's the sort of thing, did they really try to do this and they're just that incompetent that they think this is a good story? Or is the development process a bit of a wash? Is it a big old mess? They ended up rescoping, rebooting, and this happens a lot. Like Diablo 4, it's been rebooted twice. Yeah. It's like this sort of thing happens. It's just that in a live game, they cannot delay a year, right? Because if they delay a year, it's just like, hello, gamers. Would you like to subscribe? We have nothing in return, right? So with a game like this, it's like, fuck it, we have to ship. We literally have no other choice. So I can't say 100% that this, theory is true. I very much like this theory, and I think there is a very, very high chance that a whole bunch of what is covered in this article that WoWhead did pretty much was supposed to be what was up. I think anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think...
it's also a better story.
That's one part, yeah.
That definitely helps.
Yeah. We do have... after this, we will be covering leaks that are definitely real leaks from real people who
Hyper true.
But it kind of doubles down on this a little bit. And they're fairly believable in terms of the realms of... Because I saw someone in the chat say, is this remnants of cut content? And that's basically what I think a lot of people are thinking. Yeah. This could very well have been the actual story they had planned and didn't go with.
What was Drust Raid supposed to be?
Yep.
If you're not aware of what I'm referencing there. There were some files early on in the beta that just had the name Drust Raid.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't have a Drust Raid, so makes you think. Mm-hmm. Now, for Domination, then. So here's sort of continuing with WoWhead. As it turns out, the Primus had been working on something quite remarkable. A runic language whose sole purpose was to be the utter suppression of another. As we know it, the Primus, and not the Jailer, created domination magic. And that does make you think, even in the current story of the game, the Primus made domination magic. That's a bit sketchy.
Yeah, no one's like... Especially because... well, here's one thing. He made the domination magic, but didn't make a counter to it. And that is what we call very small brain move. It's like, I have made this thing that will give people complete control over other beings by completely overriding their sense of self. And I'm not going to think about how to defend myself from it. Ha! I'm great at my job.
Yeah, weird. And so he uses it to bind Zoval as part of his sentence in the Maw. Now, all the domination that we have seen is in our own realm, like the Lich King's helmet, Frostmourne. That's the result of the Primus's designs. According to him, Zoval turned domination around on him, forcing him to make these creations, which he then sent out into the other realms, but there is going to be more on that topic later. Now, the empowered runes they saw carved upon the Jailer's visage can only mean one thing. The Primus used the language of domination to brand the sentence of the Eternal Ones onto his brother's flesh, employing this entirely new system of magic to lock the Banished One away within what was intended to be an inescapable prison. Now, every other dominated character that we have seen has not acted like themselves. Has not spoken with their voice, their own voice. The sole purpose of domination is utter control to fully dominate a person's will. If Zoval was the first dominated character, and the runes dominating him do not merely cover armor, that they're covered, carved onto his flesh, right? So like, makes you think, what was the domination magic doing to Zoval?
Yeah, was there any of actual Zoval left in there if he was completely dominated by the Primus's magic?
Yeah, and what's weird,
yeah.
I mean, in a way, almost certainly, but purely because of how they did the end cinematic. But if we're to assume that end cinematic is like not what they would ideally do, then we can almost throw some of the end cinematic out the window. I mean, we can in terms of like what should be, what could have been, right? So why exactly do we accept the premise that he's entirely in charge of his own free will when ultimately he's got domination runes inscribed on him? Mm-hmm. So here is what Discordian Kitty thinks happened. The reason why the memory cuts off in that moment is because that is the last memory Zoval had before his mind was forever bound by domination. I believe that was the moment the Primus carved his runes of domination onto Zoval's flesh, cutting him off mid-sentence. The Eternal Ones never heard those final words. I also believe Zoval has been dominated from that moment until just before his death. Now that actually would be interesting. That almost gives Zoval this Arthas-like death.
Yeah.
Where, he's cut off from the domination and suddenly says, decently meaningful final words.
Yeah.
Which, because Blizzard love doing, self-referential stuff. You could see them doing that. Again, we watched domination apparently fall away from him in the same way it melted away from Anduin, and then I would contend as well in the same way that it melts away from Arthas. Mm-hmm. I believe the main reason why Zoval seems so different in that scene is because this is the only time we've actually seen him really speaking with his own voice. Every interaction we've had with him since his domination has really been with the jailer, not Zoval. The jailer. And it does make you think about why Blizzard always call him the jailer and don't call him Zoval.
Yeah, the jailer, the banished one, It is that thing of it. It's just because people have been saying in chat, he's the jailer, but he was jailed. So what? That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
He in almost no way is actually the jailer. That doesn't make sense as a name for him. It sort of does when you think about like the Maw and stuff. Not really.
Yeah.
Not really.
Let's talk about the Primus. So all the jailer is gloating about, being incredible. Zoval has actually... Zoval himself is not actually the Shadowlands lore character presented as the master strategist and tactician. That's what they say about the Primus. And that alone makes you think, was the Primus supposed to be the jailer? And Zoval is a different guy.
It's too obvious.
Friggin' concept art we have of Zoval that doesn't look like Zoval. I mean, come on. Mm-hmm. Domination, the most potent runic magic the Primus has ever created, was meant to remain in the Maw, but the best laid plans do often seem to go awry. This ought to be enough to break the bonds that hold your newfound ally. Venari pauses for a moment. Before you do so, I offer a word of warning. No creature imprisoned in that place should be trusted. Tread carefully, mortal. After all, it would be a shame to lose such a valuable business partner.
Where's Venari?
Where's Venari?
Did the Primus get rid of her?
Yeah. Well, seriously, where's Venari? She was a really cool character. It would have been great to have had, more of her, but where is she?
Well, I mean, so if she was warning us about the Rune Carver, about the Primus, then, and obviously we haven't followed that path along at all. Christ, my throat is destroyed. This is what drinking does to you, but, yeah. That plotline then must be cut entirely.
Yeah.
That story thread's gone. Christ life.
Oh, man.
I'll go sort my throat out back in a second.
Yeah, well, time for Matt to get a delicious sip, and with that, let's continue. Let's continue on. Once again, it is said, the only losses the Primus suffered were intentional. I mean, the Primus ain't a smart cookie as we see him in the game. Right? He's a total dumbass. If the only losses that he suffers are intentional, does that actually mean that the Primus, let all of the stuff happen with Zoval? The way we just, walk in with the sigil, and it makes no sense, right? That like we get foiled so easily in 9.1. It's like it doesn't really make sense given he's a master strategist character. So I think this is a great point. There is reason to believe that if we find the Primus seemingly suffering a defeat, it's part of his own plan. So really, I mean, then you could say, like, the Primus has now got himself access to Zereth Mortis using us.
Yeah.
Let's just say this crack in the Maker's plan that's allowing all the Devourers and stuff to happen. If that was something the Primus wanted to happen, he's now got it happening.
Yeah, for sure.
So there is actually a way that Blizzard could still rug pull that the Primus is in fact the true enemy of the Shadowlands. And to be honest with you, it does not make the story better, but it at least makes... Okay, it doesn't make the story better, because it's shit no matter what. But it perhaps makes the lore more interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
So, bit weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If
And
nothing,
then as well, like... So this is an okay comparison, but it's really the leaked art.
Yeah.
It's the leaked art, right? Because if you look at this guy, this ain't the jailer. This is not what Zoval looks like. It's not what Zoval looks like at all.
Not at all.
It's far closer to the Rune Carver, and if you see the original Zoval concept art, or jailer concept art, that looks like a different dude, he has, you know, this like funky helm and these shouldery things. So this means that the Zoval that is in that leaked concept art, or the jailer that is that leaked concept art, is this guy, but then this guy kind of looks more like the Rune Carver, and the Rune Carver obviously is the Primus. And then there was also that thing, right? We thought, you know, it's like you give the Rune Carver his sigil back, and it's like, bam, he's back to himself as the Primus. You know, Zoval, I maybe thought, right, Zoval's going to get his sigil, and because he'll have his sigil back, you know, he'll turn into the Zoval we saw in the concept art. It would kind of make sense, right? But then when Carestia loses her sigil, she doesn't turn into like a withered thing.
No.
Same for the other characters, right? So there's like inconsistency there in terms of how the sigils are treated. That's a bit funky.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is just a bit funky. Mega take: what if Pyromancer's leaks made the dev change story law? Nah, certainly.
Would be funny.
I mean, I even heard once of like, you know, add-ons got incorrectly added on a beta. This is like years and years ago. I think this is the Legion beta actually, and like supposedly the devs were like beyond livid at that situation. So, you know, if they're going to get that angry about add-ons being enabled too early in beta, I mean, holy shit, what are they going to think about something like that? So I think they absolutely will have been furious about that leak, which absolutely is fair and reasonable, actually. That was, you know, there's like leaks that are blowing a whistle on something that's important that somebody should know.
Yeah.
But then there's leaks where it's just like, you know, hey, here's a key bit of knowledge that could make you predict the ending of something. And, you know, for a lot of bits of media, I'll just make it worse and kind of take the dev's thunder away, which isn't really fair. So I don't think they changed anything because of that leak. I think they were almost certainly furious, as I would be too if I was in their position, because ultimately somebody broke an NDA, which means, you know, they broke their word, and that's a non-honorable thing to do. I mean, okay, if you break your word, you know, you break your NDA because you're blowing a whistle, and that's sort of the greater good. Yeah, it's an honorable thing to do. But if you're kind of, you know, just not doing it, or, you know, you're just doing it to like just to leak shit. I remember, I think was it Schreier, whoever it was, talking about their evolving policy when it came to leaking games. I think this happened because I think there's a World War II segment in an Assassin's Creed game or something that tells you the Assassin's Creed game is going to be in France or whatever. And it's what led to Kotaku being blacklisted by Ubisoft for years. But I remember, I don't know who posted it, but it was like some evolved thoughts of like, you know, the newsworthiness. Right? It's like, no, okay, we're not going to leak just to ruin devs' days. We're going to leak if it's a newsworthy thing to do. What if the leak was on purpose? That would be interesting. I don't think so.
I can't see any reason for that to be.
I don't think they tend to go like that. But hey, you know, there could be some lone actor who's really salty that
Could be.
it happened like that.